Well, we saw what an all-virtual convention looked like at the DNC last week, and everyone is eager to see what the Republicans will roll out tonight. Just a friendly reminder, in case you forgot, this is what a normal convention looks like. Well, we won't probably be seeing any of this, but we're told the RNC is actually going to be more of a hybrid than the virtual experience we saw from the DNC last week. So what does it take to pull one of these things off? Let's ask a pro, the former executive producer of the 2012 and 2016 Republican National Convention, Phil Alongi. Phil, good to see ya.
Good to see you all. Thank you for having me today.
All right, well, you've been a part of a lot of conventions, 15 at NBC, and you produced two, like I mentioned. In 2016, a lot of people talked about how involved Trump was, but you were there in the flesh. How involved really was he?
The president actually came by toward the end, just as all presidential candidates do. We worked with his campaign. Just to remind the viewers, we did not have a nominee until May of that year. So our first meeting with the campaign was in mid-May, and things were pretty far along because, if you remember correctly, the convention was going to be in July, and we had a lot of coordination to also do with the Quicken Loans Arena, since the Cleveland basketball team went on to play in the finals until June. So we were pretty far along to the point where when the campaign came in and we did our big meeting with them, fortunately they embraced a lot of what we did. And what I will remember, especially night one, because we were a little nervous to make sure that our nominee was going to be okay with everything. At the end of the night, a representative from the campaign came in and told all of us in the control room that we knocked it out of the park that night and that he was very happy.
Phil, so if you watched last week and you had to put your hat on again this year, I'm not trying to get your blood going or your stress level up, but let's say that you were the executive producer this year. After what you saw from the Democrats last week, is there anything that you would incorporate in terms of how they produce their their convention?
You know, the challenge is, I have to tell you, Sean, this has been, for even old dogs like me, this year has been phenomenal in the sense of learning about new technology and how to do certain things. I produced one of the first times ever a convention actually from my bedroom in June for the Discovery Channel. And there I was with 2 laptops, 2 phones, and working with my anchor moderator, put a whole show together. And it was unbelievable. And in terms of what I saw last week, the stress level that had to be up for both sides, I feel for these folks, because nobody knew where the pandemic was going, and everyone was hopeful that perhaps by the summertime things would have settled to the point where we could do a traditional event. The reason why I've been part of the conventions for my entire career is because I believe very much in the process. There are many people that say conventions have lost their reason for being, et cetera, et cetera. I disagree with that, because I think any opportunity to let the voters see what potentially they want to vote for and who the candidates are and hear what the parties are about, that's important. And I think conventions, even moving forward, should be looking for ways of embracing some of this new technology so that we can think out of the box. I remember going all the way back to 1988 when NBC wanted to do a, quote, convention without walls. And at that point, it was new technology to do remote. So it's not something that is relatively new in that regard in terms of the thinking process. But certainly, you and I, here I am talking to you from my home, and the quality of this is good, and people get it. And people also have become very wise and savvy to watching all these things because everyone is on Zoom. So they love seeing behind the curtain. So this, I think, is actually going to be, in the end, is going to be a good thing for all of us.
I want to ask you about that, Phil, because I feel like last week there were a few awkward moments that we saw. I want to just play a quick clip of a couple of them.
Good evening. I'm Congressman Jim Clyburn here in historic. Good evening. I'm Congressman Jim Clyburn.
Hello, America.
All right. Well, as you mentioned, they did a really good job, but were some of those awkward moments. Do you think that those were meant to be in place to make it feel organic, or was that just the challenge of being virtual?
Well, I'm not going to speak for Ricky Kirsten and his group or put it all together, but you know, there is something to be said. when you give someone a camera and you give them the air, it's they're now in control. And you never know what you're going to get. And obviously you had a situation there where people weren't ready and it's like, let's redo that, etc. And sometimes people forget they're on the air. We've all seen the bloopers over the years. So I don't know. As I said, I can't get into Ricky Kirshner's head, but certainly I think stuff like that, people sort of love it because it's like a natural moment. And fortunately, there weren't any cuss words or anything like that came out, because that's one of the first things that you learn in Television 101 is protect the anchors. And I'm sure your team does that for both of you to make sure that mic is not open and things aren't going out that aren't meant to go out.
Yes, exactly. Phil, it's so good to see you and talk to you, get your insight. We'll have to have you back to get your comments on how the RNC does.
That'd be great. I'll be sitting here with a nice bottle of wine tonight and just enjoying them.
As you should. Good to see you.
Just tune in Newsmax and have a good time. Relax and watch it.
That's right.
I promise to be there.
All right, well, still to come. Remember that Maryland congressional candidate we introduced you to last week, whose campaign video went viral, where she addressed the reality for the Black community in Baltimore? Well, that was Kimberly Klasick, and she is set to speak tonight at the RNC, and we're going to talk to her next.
Folks, I've got some